this is the best offensive team that UCLA's played so far, including New Mexico. So not a lot of actions, not a lot of tricky offense run by Southern Utah, but a lot of veteran guys that know how to put the ball in the basket.
UCLA's been dominating teams, but it's a Southern Utah team that has won games as Dylan Andrews gets the first bucket of the night.
Well, individual defense becomes paramount tonight in terms of keeping guys in front. If they get to the ISO game, you can't let these Southern Utah guards get downhill, get into the paint, and collapse your defense.
They spent some time in Southern California after a couple of games in San Diego, both of which they won. One against San Diego, one against Idaho.
Well, it's interesting, Guy. It seems like every team in the country is old now, but this Southern Utah team is old. They have a lot of seniors that have played in a lot of games. And so a good challenge here tonight for UCLA. Kind of to wrap up the non-con in terms of, if you take a look at Mick Cronin, to wrap up, I don't want to say the easier part, but now, starting next week, you have the two first conference games in the Big Ten, and then the rest of December really gets going for this UCLA team in terms of who they're playing.
That foul was on Jamari Sibley for Southern Utah. They're winning games by 24 points right now. Rob Jeter on the other side, second season for him, a former Big Ten assistant for Bo Ryan at Wisconsin and then at Minnesota as well. Sky Clark is the jumper.
Oh, good sign. Sky Clark, he's been affecting the game with his defense, deflections, turnovers, steals. Hasn't really gotten it going offensively yet, but we know he's capable. So a good sign he knocks down his first jumper tonight.
Kobe Johnson almost got the steal. The ball will stay with Southern Utah on the possession arrow.
Yeah, Sky Clark, 38 from 2, 25% from 3. He's a much better offensive player than that. And again, once they get into the meat of this schedule, starting in December, they're going to need his offense. This is new this year, Guy, for UCLA. Out dead balls and made baskets, UCLA picking up full, using their athleticism, which they hope converts to easier offense, more offense. They're averaging way more points than they have here at UCLA under Mick Cronin, and a lot of it's because of this defense and picking up full and creating turnovers and going the other way.
Meanwhile, the Thunderbirds are finding airspace almost impossible to find right now.
What's become clear here for UCLA, we're only 6 games in, this is game 7, is if you don't guard, you ain't playing.
Right.
And this depth of UCLA is real, and so guys understand if they want a bigger role, they want more minutes. Can't make mistakes defensively. You can't let your guy score.
Eric Daly forces a turnover from Dominique Ford.
I like Daly. I said it the other night. You know, he's not a primary guy, although he may lead UCLA in scoring some nights. But just a guy, jack of all trades, that does a lot of things that help you win. Similar to Kobe Johnson, but more offensive oriented than Kobe Johnson.
Tyler Bilodeau's first touch, but it comes out quickly. And an offensive foul on Kobe Johnson, his first and the first team foul. Mick Cronin said this week he wants a little more discipline in some small areas from Kobe. Careless passes, that sort of stuff. I mean, his numbers have been really good.
Well, if you've been around Mick Cronin since he's been here at UCLA, which we have, maybe the biggest thing has been no turnover. And so his teams have been low turnover since he's gotten here to UCLA. This team is actually scoring more and moving the ball more, so they may tick up a bit as Daly makes the 3. But I think you'll live with a couple more if you're scoring more points. What he doesn't want is the careless ones, what you're talking about, Guy, just throwing it to the other team, just not being strong with the ball, those types of turnovers.
2 minutes in, Southern Utah hasn't attempted a shot yet. No FGAs, can't get a look. Jamari Sibley.
Well, just so much ball pressure from UCLA. I mean,
Jameer Simpson came at the buzzer.
Forget getting looks, just moving the ball. There's ball pressure everywhere, starting in the backcourt and all the way into the front court.
That one poked away for a moment by Clark. Into the corner it goes, in and out on the attempt from Dominique Ford. And here comes Clark.
Got numbers.
Bilodeau trailing and stepping into a 3 that he can't hit.
I like that shot, though. Bilodeau's going to play the 5. I envision more of that for him in UCLA. On the trail, that trail three, he's going to have a lot bigger guys guarding him that are going to run to the paint. He should have a lot of looks on that trail.
He had a good three-point shooting night here last week against Idaho State.
Shooting 40%, not a lot of attempts. But if he can stay consistent and keep it around that 40%, how valuable is that going to be for UCLA?
Here's Ford, who just had the three go in and out, is able to get free and drops in the first basket of the night for the Thunderbirds.
Well, that's what I said right off the top. UCLA's defense has been really good here the first 3+ minutes, but they got some dudes that can score, this Southern Utah team, and not conventional, not pass side to side, all that. Just, hey, go get me a bucket individually.
Not a group you're going to scare off with 3 good minutes of defense.
No.
Johnson can't hit the three, and Daly goes up and gets fouled on the rebound attempt. Foul on Tavy Jackson. It's his first second-team foul. I mean, this is what the stat says. Third best defense this year.
And I would make this point, Guy. It has been more of a less possession game in the last few years for UCLA. So that points per game was a little bit misleading, although the defense was good. But they're still keeping teams to 54. And it's a higher possession game now because they're picking up full and forcing the issue a little bit. So it's an even more impressive number this year because of how they're playing differently offensively.
Foul on Brock Felder, his first third team. They're 12th in defensive rating, which takes the pace into account at Ken Pomeroy's KenPom.com, which is what your eyes tell you, Don.
Well, I've been doing this for 100 years, so you can just tell when you look at a team defensively if they're if they're good, and B, if they're locked in, engaged, playing with intensity, attention to detail, not making mistakes.
Andrews can't hit the three.
And for the most part, there's been a few lapses, but for the most part, UCLA has been that this year so far.
So you came in, your first year was the 7th year of UCLA, 6th year of UCLA basketball.
Yeah.
You've been to this 100, and UCLA's been around. This is 106.
I was before Coach Wooden.
Wow.
Feels like it.
After going without a field goal attempt for 2 minutes, Southern Utah's got a couple baskets.
It's interesting to watch teams come in here, these mid-major teams, lower major teams.
Good block. Bilodeau gets denied by Felder. And Tavy Jackson gets tied up by Sebastian Mack and Kobe Johnson. The ball will go to UCLA.
I will finish that point, Guy, after the break.
Maryland trying to get to 6-1. All right, Don, you were saying?
I was saying, it's interesting, and we've done so many games here over the years of at historic Pauley Pavilion, that watching how these teams react to coming in here. Some teams come in here, play open and free, make shots right from the jump, and they stay in the game. Some teams are intimidated and get off the slow starts and get back in the game. But one thing that kind of has always been similar is when you have a veteran team coming in here, whether they start good or not, they usually get back in the game, and that's kind of what Southern Utah's done here.
UCLA looking for a 4th opportunity on this possession, but they're not going to get it.
That hurts.
And a timeout is called by Southern Utah. What a defensive effort by the Thunderbirds around the rim. A huge block from Brock Felder, who went down really hard, and the defense held, and then a scrap for a loose ball.
Well, Sebastian Mack falling on that ball, that doesn't feel good. I don't care who you are. But what's interesting, Guy, is that the scouting report on the Southern Utah team coming in was that they were really, really good offensively, and defensively weren't great. Their defense has been pretty good here to start.
Well, Brock Felder has protected the rim with 2 blocks too early.
It looked like UCLA was going to jump them. It was 7-0. It's been a few minutes since UCLA scored.
We'll have to keep an eye there on Sebastian Mack. You can see he landed on the ball, and he's holding his wrist there. Meanwhile, this is Felder's block.
That's a good recovery. He's athletic, big guy. Andrews thought he had a straight line, easy layup. Felder sent that thing back.
Good to see him okay after he hit the floor hard. UCLA has 3 made field goals, all assisted by Kobe Johnson. So just about 5 minutes gone by, and things maybe settling a little bit for Southern Utah after a slow first couple minutes.
Well, I don't know if they're an early clock team or not, typically Southern Utah, but they're going to have to understand that you go early clock against UCLA, you're probably not getting a very good shot.
Bilodeau with the turnaround. And there's Will Kyle off the bench, but he couldn't corral the rebound. Why is that?
Just because their first 10 seconds of defense, I talked about the ball pressure earlier, you got to move it and get any defense shifting a little to get yourself a little more room and more space to get cleaner looks. Bilodeau down in that mid-low post. I think that's kind of option one for UCLA on offense to start with. Doesn't mean they go there every time, but they're going to run a lot of things through that area. We've talked about that guy the few UCLA games that we've done so far.
Would force another turnover, already 5th of the game for Southern Utah. But UCLA's not shooting it down.
No.
Bilodeau's 0 for 3, Kobe Johnson's 0 for 3.
Yeah, usually if you got 5 turnovers in the first 5.5 minutes, it's a double-digit lead already.
Well, UCLA's missed its last 8 shots.
So here we go again. Bilodeau recognizes the secondary defender coming or not. He's not going to work.
Spins away, but he misses.
He's got to finish that play.
0-4 now for Bilodeau here in the early going.
A little bit of contact, but not enough to make him miss that shot.
Jeffrey Langston pressured, picked up his dribble, and he throws it into a turnover. 6 turnovers.
Well, what was the theme, Guy, last week and the week before when we were here? The defense already seemed pretty elite.
Yeah.
That the offense needs to catch up to it. And I think this first 6 minutes of this one, we're kind of back to that a little bit, where the defense has been really good, but offense a little out of sorts.
Yes.
Here the last 3-4 minutes.
Here's Bilodeau getting free, and he still can't break the seal. And then Kobe Johnson gets fouled, and he'll go to the line to shoot 2 free throws. Coming out of that New Mexico game, the defensive intensity, Mick Cronin said, we've got it, but we don't have a clear-cut best player on offense.
And I don't think that you need a clear-cut best player, but guys need to understand their roles, where they're going to get shots from, where their spots are, where guys are going to be, and then just reps playing with each other. And I think it's gotten better, and based on what we've seen the last few games, they'll get going here offensively eventually. Kobe Johnson, just watching him play, nothing sticks out really, right? There's no like highlight plays typically or anything, but then you look at the stat sheet after the game and it's full. His line is like full all the way across.
He had a very rare line the other night. Part of his 6-steal performance.
Yeah, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 12 points. Take that every night for UCLA.
Bilodeau with the rebound. Well, that line, the 12 points, 6 rebounds, 6 steals, 5 assists. When Johnson did it on Friday, Don, it was the second time in 20 years a Big Ten player had done that.
Yeah.
They get a dunk as Sebastian Mack is feeling his face. He might have got popped. He's checking for blood.
Usually the steals guys aren't the rebound guys, and the rebound guys aren't the assist guys, you know? That's why it's crazy. I pointed it out already early in the season, but it's still happening. Great Osibor up at Washington is still leading the league in rebounding and steals, which is crazy.
Johnson, maybe that free throw got him going. That's his first field goal of the night.
Again, it allows UCLA to pick up full and try and create some more havoc, create some more turnovers on defense.
Nearly another one pulled. And that is a turnover. Force number 7 for Southern Utah.
Kobe Johnson again. Did you see it? He poked it away, hit it off the leg.
Last week you were trying to come up with another guy who's led a league in rebounds.
A high major player.
Rebounds and
steals.
And have you come up with, did you come up with one?
That would require me doing some homework.
Oh, I thought you just sit.
I need somebody to do it for me. That's why I threw it out there on the air. I thought somebody, where's Mulligan when we need him?
Satchel Paige once said, sometimes I sit and sometimes he said, sometimes I sit and think and sometimes I just sit. So you're doing more sitting.
But I was thinking.
Oh. We'll put in an official research request for you.
Please. Can you make that happen? You know more people than I do.
Well, there's a form.
Oh, there is?
Yeah. Trent Perry has come in for UCLA, and Lazar Stefanovic.
Trent Perry played really well the other night. 10 points, career high, obviously early in his career, but shot it with a lot of confidence.
Kyle bothered at the rim and denied. Perry's unique, right? He's a freshman on a older team or a more experienced team here for UCLA.
But getting an opportunity. You know, Dylan Andrews was out for a couple games, but he is getting an opportunity to show what he can do.
He just committed the foul, and we've got a timeout on the floor. Turnovers here in the early going. 7 turnovers forced.
Another example of how this game could be a bigger margin than it is. Southern Utah 3 of 7. UCLA 5 for 19. 12 more FGAs here in the first 8 minutes. 7 offensive rebounds for UCLA.
Adai Mara has come into the game for the Bruins, patrolling the paint.
Played well the other night, late in the game too. He and Trent Perry really offensively played well down the stretch.
Important games for him with conference play on the horizon.
Yes. To get his conditioning back. He was out for so long. We've talked about that, but get his rhythm, timing, and confidence. You know, has shown flashes. But if UCLA is going to contend in the Big Ten this year, he's going to have to be a factor for them.
Jameer Simpson just gets it off, and Trent Perry is there for the save, out of bounds off of Southern Utah.
Because I don't know in a Big Ten how many nights you can play Bilodeau at the 5 and survive in the Big Ten. I mean, you can start that way, but you got to bring some Kyle and Mara in to add some size and some length.
So how many minutes? Like Mara was a 10-minute-a-game guy. Does that suffice? There he is to catch the alley-oop.
You would hope more. I mean, I think you start with 10 minutes, but if he's producing and productive and affecting the game, then hopefully he can keep building it up as we go along here. So once we get into January, maybe he's up to 15 to 20.
You see his length here. Guarding on Jameer Simpson, who has to kick it out. Percy Miller.
You know you have length if we're wondering when he blocks shots and dunks whether or not he left the floor.
Yeah, that's right. Here's Eric Daly, tough shot, and he draws the foul on Malik Lamine. Take a look at how to beat a zone.
A little 1-2-2. I'm not really looking, I think, to turn UCLA over, but more to get him to use some clock. But great execution by UCLA, and that's what I'm saying. Like, you put him on the back line and stuff like that, just throw it up there. Nobody can get to balls that Mara can get to because of his size and length.
Eric Daly, 74% free throw shooter. The transfer from Oklahoma State, a sophomore, makes the first. He was among several Bruins that were here the other night to watch the women's team beat #1 South Carolina. His
Congratulations to Corey Close and her group, #1 in the country.
For the first time in program history. And Daly's mom, a longtime college coach, so he said I talked to him today. He said, I know Coach Close, I know Don Staley, I've been around them, and he said it was a blast in here the other night. You know, it was a sellout crowd and really a statement win. UCLA blew South Carolina out.
What's interesting, getting back to Mara after.
Take a look at our State of Success, sponsored by State Farm. Big Ten teams in the AP poll. The stat on UCLA being #1 that you had earlier was incredible.
I think it's 48 years. It's 40-something years. There's only been 26 teams at #1 in that many years. Why? UConn, Tennessee, Stanford dominating for years.
UCLA sent several weeks at #2 last year, but the Bruins break through, and now they're off to Hawaii with a target on their back as Daly scores with an athletic move.
Get back to Mara, a couple things. Number one, you see the hands and the touch. He's got great touch and great hands for a guy that size, but defensively in that drop coverage, you know, Bilodeau, when he's guarding that high ball screen, is up and hedging and stopping the ball. So do teams take advantage of Mara in that drop coverage? What's open is that free throw line area when the big's all the way back in the paint. But he's so long, are you really going to pull up in front of him? He was out on that one. That middle ball screen is where he was in drop coverage. But again, he can impact the game with his size in a big way.
Eric Daly just committed his second foul. A rare open look, and Tavy Jackson doesn't let the moment pass. He hits the three, and a timeout taken by Rob Jeter.
Again, only 10-point lead for UCLA, because you look at the box score, and they should be up a lot more. But give Southern Utah credit. UCLA defense has been pretty good, but they've hung in, and you make a mistake in Southern Utah and Jackson, somebody didn't communicate, but he's probably going to make that most times. In a shot to pull Southern Utah within 10.
Transfer from Colorado State, a Vegas native, and a big make. What does it tell you about the way Rob Jeter's viewing this game that he just used another timeout?
He must have saw something defensively he wanted to change. But that's a good question, to be using your timeouts this early when you may need them later.
Now here's Bilodeau.
This is the one thing I wish Bilodeau, when he catches it, you like it being under control and on balance, but go quick sometimes. Don't let the defense read it. Just go before any second or third defenders can come.
He's now 1 of 7, but Southern Utah can't take advantage as Jameer Simpson dribbles it off his foot out of bounds.
Simpson getting over 18 a night, hasn't scored yet.
Had 21 in the win against Idaho a couple nights ago. He was 7 of 11 from 2 in that game, but he's 0 of 4, and he's just taken 3 so far in this one. Stefanovic gets free and connects.
Rhythm jumper, no hesitation. Andrews with the delivery. Stefanovic has proven, even going back to his days at Utah, he can knock down threes and get going from behind that line.
Big for him to hit a shot. His minutes, you wonder where is he going to fit in this rotation. Only played a handful of minutes on Friday. Another turnover. That is number 9.
But after, watch this. Andrews coming off the Mara ball screen, and then it's just replaced back. Quick feet down, knocks it down. Good. You know, Stefanovic guy has gone from the most minutes on the team last year, to your point, a lesser role, but seems to have a good attitude about it. And when he comes in, he's still playing hard. And that's what you need out of your veteran leadership. There's not many guys that have been here before on this team. There's a lot of new guys here this year. Stefanovic was here last year. And so if he had a bad attitude about what his role is this year, it could really hurt the locker room.
Daly said today it's as much fun as a team he's ever been on in terms of team chemistry. Now, Mick Cronin said this week he thinks chemistry is just something that happens when a team plays really well.
I don't know if I agree with most everything Mick says. I'm not sure I agree with that. Because I've been on some bad teams, and why were we bad? Not because we had bad players. We had a bad culture. In a bad locker room.
His emphasis, he said, was resilience. Players with character and resilience.
Yeah, but if you got guys moping around because they don't like their role, they're not playing enough minutes, then that usually affects the overall spirit of the team.
Even if it's a winning team? If you're moping around on a winning team, you can affect that?
No doubt.
Simpson, nice little touch pass inside, but Mara's there and then kicks the ball out.
Because once there's any adversity, are you coming together or are you splintered apart because guys don't like their roles or what they're being asked to do?
Dominic Ford gets fouled by Dylan Andrews. That's his first and the 5th team foul. He'll be at the line when we return. 7:46 remaining here in the first half, and Southern Utah only with 9 points.
What UCLA does.
Despite the fact the Bruins are shooting just 36%, they're up by 15. This is what the Bruins have coming up. Whoa! A Big Ten game around the corner.
Yeah, what do we want? What do we want? This is the last tune-up, the last dress rehearsal, whatever you want to call it.
Look at this.
It is coming now. Two conference games early December, and then Arizona. That game's in Phoenix. Carolina is in the Garden, and then Gonzaga right down the street here in LA at the Intuit Dome. So I think this has been a good stretch for UCLA with all these new guys, incorporating all these new guys, figuring out offensively, defensively, they've been good the whole year as you go into these games. But they've been impressive. The margin of victory, you mentioned it earlier, Guy, they've been blowing teams out here at home to get ready for this schedule that's upcoming in December.
I don't think Mick Cronin would call it a tune-up or a dress rehearsal, though.
Okay, check back with me in about an hour and 20 minutes.
Stefanovic his second three of the night.
If he can come in and provide that perimeter shooting and be reliable, really going to have huge value for this UCLA offense.
A foul inside on the Bruins.
Well, again, Southern Utah, we see this all the time, this 1-2-2 where they're really not trapping, running and jumping, trying to turn you over to make you use clock. But both times that Southern Utah's done it, UCLA got a dunk and then a wide open three from Stefanovic.
Foul on Mara, his first.
I think what's interesting about teams that do that 1-2-2, and even UCLA with their 2-2-1, is it's only after makes. So if you only have 10 points, how many times can you do it?
Right. I mean, you hear coaches say that sometimes, right? We have to make baskets in order to defend.
Exactly. And you know who the biggest one of that, team that we followed for years, Dana Altman in Oregon. Last year, because of injuries and things that were happening, didn't score a lot, so they couldn't use that press that they've used for so many years that's been so effective.
It'd be fun to see the Ducks, the LA
big win today.
Oregon. Yeah, they
big win for them.
Texas A&M, 20th ranked Aggies.
Yeah, that win today for Oregon is really going to matter in March.
They scored 51 second half points in that.
Yeah, that is a quad one win all day.
It's at the they were at the MGM in Vegas.
MGM in Vegas.
Foul on Sebastian Mack.
Southern Utah in the bonus. This is one thing you don't want to do if you're UCLA, because your defense has been so good, is put Southern Utah on the line. 72% as a team, not bad.
Tavy Jackson, those 56% this year. And this is a 1-and-1. And he makes it look pretty pure. Only loss for Southern Utah came against undefeated Loyola Chicago, coached by former Michigan State GA Drew Valentine, brother of Denzel. Obviously a program that's been in the limelight in the last several years.
And that was a road game.
It was a road game, yep. Jackson gets both free throws.
See where UCLA goes here. Been pretty much, except for that 1-2-2 press, but pretty much straight man-to-man.
And one for Sebastian Mack. He's been living at the line so far this season.
He puts a lot of pressure on the officials. Getting to contact, jumping into guys. When he gets the calls, you see a night like he had a couple games ago, 15 for 16 at the line. The problem is when he doesn't get the whistle, then it turns into a really tough shot.
He's 28 of 31 at the free throw line so far this year.
I said this the other night. The one thing you have to say about him is he's looking to draw fouls. Why? Because he's a good foul shooter. There's a lot of guys that draw a lot of fouls that aren't good foul shooters. It's like, why are you trying to draw fouls if you can't make the free throw?
Yeah. Well, he's part of this defense, right? Every game, the player with the most deflections signs the deflection bone. It's like a big dog bone. And at the end of the year, the guy with the most signatures gets the bone. Sebastian Mack got it last year for UCLA. There's a travel and a turnover, number 10 for Southern Utah.
So the bone is like a trophy?
That's right.
How big is it?
I haven't seen it.
Like, are you going to put it in your apartment, like up on the fireplace mantle, or like? We need a visual of this bone. Have you
give
seen
it to your dog?
Have
no,
you seen it?
I have not seen the bone. I've only heard the legend of it.
We need whoever's doing the research on the steals and rebounds needs to get a camera on the bone, too.
Yeah, just fill out the form.
We need a form for that, too?
Yeah, form. There's Stefanovic giving it up to Dylan Andrews. And that was one thing as Stefanovic turns it over. Mick Cronin said he wants to see a little more of from Dylan Andrews. He said he's got too much ability for his deflection numbers. This is Mick Cronin talking this week. He wants a little more.
I think Mick Cronin always wants a little more on the defensive end from everybody.
Foul on William Kyle.
Southern Utah moving it a little bit more now. Early in the game, weren't moving it, playing right into UCLA's hands.
Shot clock low. And they just barely beat it, but that shot hits the backboard first, and here comes Stefanovic.
So the
Andrews up top to Mara. And he can't corral it after it gets knocked away.
I like that read by Andrews, though. They were in drop coverage. Usually guys, when they see that big drop off that ball screen, they get to the pull-up game. He brought the big two and threw it up to Mara. Just couldn't convert.
Foul on Stefanovic, 9th team foul for the Bruins. And now Sky Clark will replace Dylan Andrews.
One thing UCLA has been very good at, for all the people that are new to UCLA in the Big Ten, under Mick Cronin, they've been very good defensively year in and year out. Part of the reason they've been so good is they haven't put teams on the foul line. They've been good. They've been guarding without fouling. They typically don't, other teams coming in here or even on the road don't shoot a lot of free throws against this UCLA defense.
And just look at the length, right? The athleticism.
Well, a lot of teams that are really good defensively are physical, right? But they're so physical, they'll give up some fouls for their defense being really good. Well, really, you're only a good defensive team if you can guard without fouling, because it's about keeping them from scoring. And if they're scoring at the free throw line, how good of a defense are you really?
You saw Eric Daly on the bench, and talking to him today, one thing he said, he watches a lot of big guards who defend when he watches NBA guys. So what does that mean? I mean, you could think of the guys that or big wings.
Big wings is the best way to say it, because if you watch NBA guys, big wings guard 1 through 4 at least. Some of them can guard 5.
Clark. That's good to see. Duncan Reed, who just checked into the game, and he fires a 3. And here comes Kobe Johnson. And Cronin did say he feels like Dylan Andrews is doing a good job of getting his hands up, as Stefanovic is having a nice offensive night.
He really is. You see the effect, though, when Mara's in there. They really pay attention to him because they know one guy can't guard him. So driving lanes and weak side is open if they're paying too much attention to Mara.
Stefanovic with 10 points. Meanwhile, Southern Utah is now 4 of 16 from the field.
The fact that they only have 16 FGAs is shocking with 4 minutes to go in the half.
Mara with the box out, and he draws the foul on Lamine, his second.
I mean, that's really low.
It's half as many as UCLA.
Yeah.
UCLA has held 4 of its 6 opponents to 25 points or fewer in the first half. The season low is 16. That was Lehigh a couple weeks ago.
We'll see what happens. There's still 4:13 left in this half, and what happens in the second half. But if you're walking into the locker room at halftime and you got 25 points, it's a little demoralizing.
Adai Mara 57% this year, and he misses the front end of the 1-and-1, but an offensive rebound for the Bruins.
With his touch, should be better than 50% at the line.
He catches, comes down, and goes back up for the dunk.
Great decision by Mara, though. He was going to try and catch that in the air and finish it. Knew he wasn't going to finish it. Came down, went right back up and finished the play.
Attacking it on Mara and scoring is Percy Miller.
That's one. That shouldn't happen. That shot should have been challenged and sent back.
Miller guarding his Louisville teammate from last year, Sky Clark, right now.
This is what I'm talking about with Mar, the conditioning part. He was out for so long, you can tell he's getting a little tired.
Stefanovic is feeling it. He's got 13.
Again, he's proven he can be a reliable three-point shooter. Great sign for UCLA tonight.
Miller tries it again, and this time is denied. And to your point on Stefanovic, had a low minute output on Friday night and is back ready to play today. He's been stroking it from the outside. Stefanovic with the mid-range and stepping out from three, where he's perfect tonight.
Tonight in this first half, it has been lethal. You start with the ball pressure, then you start with the hands getting in passing lanes and individually on defense, and they just swarm people and force them into making bad decisions. And what's different about that this year, more than most years under Mick Cronin, is it's led to easier offense. Converting these turnovers and live ball turnovers into easier offense on the other end. 16 points for Southern Utah, who is a good offensive team with 3:19 to go in the first half.
Well, and Don, that top number for Southern Utah, 10 turnovers, they're not a careless team. They average 12 a game.
Right. But they haven't seen a defense like this yet.
Percy Miller makes the free throw. Don't forget, coming up, the State Farm halftime. Back in Chicago, a lot to talk about. An active week, an active night today. Big day. Don mentioned Oregon. How about Illinois yesterday? You're talking about first half. They held Little Rock to 19 points in the first half and then 15 in the second half. And they scored 92. That game was 51-19 at the break. As Stefanovic, a rare miss for him.
And I think Illinois is only going to get better as the season goes on. As Perry knocks down that long two, they're relying on freshmen at Illinois. So you got to assume those guys are going to get even, as good as they've been to start, they're going to get even better as the year goes on.
Kasparas Yakachunas. I saw he had a big smile last night getting ready for his first Thanksgiving. Trent Perry, we haven't seen a lot of him tonight. He had a couple of fouls early.
Those are the turnovers we were talking about earlier, the unforced errors. Just careless with the ball. I didn't see what he did. But they said he traveled.
Fourth of the night for UCLA.
See, this is what I was saying to start the game. Individual defense tonight. Dominique Ford with the bucket. You got to be able to keep your guy in front to start and then contest, get him to miss. The thing about defense at this level and at the NBA level is everyone thinks you got to block the shot or steal it. No, you just got to get him to miss. That's it. And you've done your job.
Sky Clark blocked at the rim by Kai Burdick. And a travel and a turnover, number 11. Brock Felder made a big impact around the rim defensively for Southern Utah early, but he's sitting right now with a couple of fouls.
Yeah, I would say like UCLA hasn't chopped up this Southern Utah defense. It started a little bit slow. But it's really been Southern Utah's inability to score. Obviously, only 20 points. We're almost at halftime.
They've taken more free throws than UCLA. They've made more free throws than UCLA. Kind of caught in between there. Kobe Johnson can't hit.
Offhand float game is really difficult.
Kobe was able to deflect that away, and here come the Bruins. It looked like he was giving up positioning down underneath, and he still made a play.
He's got good measurables, 6'6". But it's really his IQ, his defensive IQ, Kobe Johnson, why he's so good.
Illegal screen on Adai Mara, his second foul. Mentioned that stat: 12 points, 6 rebounds, 6 steals, 5 assists for Kobe Johnson. Second in the Big Ten to do that in 20 years. The other was Corey Sanders at Rutgers about 8 years ago. So rare company for Kobe Johnson. Under a minute now remaining in the first half.
See if Southern Utah can get something going here to feel good going into the break. Obviously going to be down, but maybe a bucket and just a little bit of momentum.
Tavy Jackson, a high arcing three, the closeout from Sky Clark, but it goes out of bounds to Southern Utah at a reset on the shot clock. And now Bilodeau is going to race to the scorer's table for UCLA. Let's see here.
Tough one.
Kai Burdick. And now an offensive foul on Dominique Ford. A lot working against Southern Utah. Just can't string together a couple possessions.
A lot of illegal screen fouls called here in this first half, moving screens, so something the players need to adjust to in the second half.
8-second shot clock, game clock differential.
We'll let this thing run down. Looks like high ball screen. Clark and Bilodeau.
McCronin directing this one from the sideline. Shouting instructions and the word go to Sky Clark. Now with 3 on the shot clock. With 2, he fires. And they're going to get one last shot. Kobe Johnson, clean look. Perry, another chance. Bilodeau, and it doesn't go. They got 4 looks at it.
Wow. Impressive first half for UCLA. 23-point lead for UCLA here at halftime. Let's see if they can continue to push the lead out in the second half.
They hold their opponents to 36% from the field, tonight 30. From 3, 28%, tonight 8.
Yeah.
Well, they force 18 turnovers a game, tonight 13, 14.
There's another one. I mean, you just look at this box score and the numbers just jump off the page. On both sides of the ball for UCLA, 12 offensive rebounds in that first half for them, 13 assists on 17 made field goals to go along with the defense.
And they did it without their leading scorers.
Yeah.
Leading the way. Bilodeau, 1 of 8 scoring in the first half. Daly was really efficient.
It's a great sign when your leading scorer doesn't have a big half and you're still up by this much.
Bilodeau looking for another bucket, and he still is struggling to find the stroke, 1 of 9.
That one for sure, Guy. One thing Bilodeau's got to get better at is picking up his target earlier. The reason he misses some of those shots in there is you're playing through contact. There's defense there. But if you get on your target late, you're probably going to miss it. That time for sure, he was already in his shooting motion before he even looked at where his target was.
UCLA ball on the possession arrow. Bilodeau came over to get the block. It looked like Felder was going to have a clean look. Felder, who played well in the defensive end of the first half for Southern Utah, but had a couple of fouls.
Well, it's just to finish that point, sometimes you get sped up a little bit, especially when you didn't have a great first half, which Bilodeau didn't. So when you get sped up a little bit, you start doing things before. You got to slow down, snap your head, find the target, and knock it in.
What is his offensive strength? Here's Andrew, who's under control.
His strength is at his size, his ability to make jumpers, not only on that mid-post area, but all the way out to the three-point line. But he can turn his back to defenders and back them down. But I just feel like in his first 7 games of the season, he's missed too many in the paint that he should be making. And I say that, and the guy's leading the team in scoring, so it's not that big of a deal. But I think he could be even more efficient in finishing down there.
There's Jamari Sibley with the basket. Well, tonight's a good test when you see him going up against Brock Felder, who's also 6'8", who's been strong underneath the basket for Southern Utah defense tonight.
Well, you want guys that can do both, score inside and out. Bilodeau for sure can do that. So depending on who's guarding him, you either go inside smaller guys or you take the bigger guys out onto the perimeter.
Daly spins through traffic and scores. He had 7 points in 6 minutes in the first half.
I think he's getting comfortable on the offensive end here for UCLA. The first couple finding his way, but ever since, it's been really productive offensively.
You know, I'm interested in what you think, Don. I said to Daly, I asked Daly when we're watching you, what are you thinking about? And he said, I'm thinking about defense and rebounding. And if I'm thinking about it, then it takes pressure off of my offense.
Okay, Eric Daly.
You're not buying it?
You're the only one that's thinking about defense and rebounding. Guys are thinking about that.
Look at this.
No, in all seriousness, he probably is because of the defensive culture here at UCLA. And I said it right off the top tonight. If you're not guarding, you're not playing. And so no matter how good you are on the offensive end, if you're making mistakes on the defensive side, you're not going to play as much.
Well, he does look, I mean, wouldn't you agree watching him, especially after those first couple, he looks like he's playing really free and easy. For a new player?
Confident, too. Not easy coming in a new situation, all these new players, new terminology, new way of doing things.
New place, Oklahoma State last year. But he comes from a family of hoopers, his mom and his dad. His mom's left-handed, like him.
See, that's Andrews right there.
Just mid-range.
That drop coverage, and if you drop back too far, Andrews made a living last year, the last half of the season, in just that. Teams were dropping on that high ball screen, and he was living at the foul line making jumpers.
Sky Clark came over and poked that away. Already 5 turnovers forced in this second half.
Andrews averaged the last 14 games of the year almost 18 points a game. And maybe this is the game that gets him going. It's been a slow start for him. He was out for a couple with that groin, but he's proven he can do it at this level. He did it last year, and maybe this rip of minutes here will get him back in his rhythm.
He's got 9 points in 3 minutes and 40 seconds of the second half. The average is 7, to your point now. This is Jameer Simpson, the leading scorer, averages 18 a game.
Look who's guarding him now.
He hasn't scored in this game, and still he's 0 of 5 with Kobe Johnson on him. And Kobe with a word for the Southern Utah bench.
I can tell you what he said, probably not word for word, but basically, how are you going to ISO me?
He made one of the assistant coaches laugh. Yeah. Well, laughing as Kobe Johnson said something. And there's Villanova with his second field goal. And maybe that'll get him going.
Haven't you read my defensive resume? Kobe Johnson, man.
Do you know who I am? Oh, ball was deflected. Jamari Sibley, that's why he was able to go up and down with it. There's Daly on the snap pass from Kobe Johnson. Nice connection between those two.
Sometimes they take your spirit when it's just so hard to score defensively or score offensively. It affects your defense.
Sky Clark the foul. Tavy Jackson's over there kind of holding his eye. He might have caught one in the face on the basket on the other end, but Dylan Andrews has gotten going. After 2 points in the first half, he's got a quick 9 points here in under 5 minutes in the second.
To enter the NBA draft this spring, but a ton of good freshmen that will only get better as the season goes on.
We had to make that. We had to make that list on 16 and 5 because if you don't add the 5 rebounds, there's a bunch of guys scoring in double figures as freshmen. Speaking of freshmen, UCLA's freshmen. Trent Perry just committed his 3rd foul. But John Mobley Jr. at Ohio State, who's averaging 15, he's making 3 threes a game. And we mentioned earlier Kasparis Yakachonis, who's averaging 10, 6, and 7. He had a 13-assist game.
Another guy that's probably going to be a top 20 pick if he decides to enter the draft. Yakachonis is big European guard, big strong body, already well versed in screen roll game both ways with his ability to read ball screens offensively and make the right play, and defensively.
Illinois was picked 4th in the preseason. This UCLA team was picked 3rd. The foul was on
well, and that's
William Powell, by the way, second.
That's what we were all saying, Guy, before the season started. Like, there's a lot of good teams in the Big Ten this year, but no dominant team, or at least no team that separated themselves. So we kind of got to wait and see how this thing plays out before we start making some predictions.
Illinois got the transfer Kylan Boswell as well, who came in this year. Here's Perry with a nice move.
Speaking of reading it,
well, he's not going to be a 10 and 16 and 6 guy this year, but where's Perry's big picture role for freshman for UCLA?
well, that he's a starting lead guard here when the opportunity presents itself. He's got a really good understanding of the game already because of where he played in high school at Harvard Westlake. But there's a lot of guards. We've been talking about it all year. UCLA's guard depth. There's 5 or 6 guys that you could make a case for playing 20 to 25 minutes a night, but unfortunately that can't happen.
Foul on the floor, no free throws for Southern Utah. Coming up on Saturday, the Bruins hit the field at the Rose Bowl to close out the regular season against Fresno State. That all begins at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific, only on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. Big Ten fans are going to be scratching there. They're going to say, wait a second, November football, it's 75 degrees?
Yeah,
which is what we're looking for, what we're going to have at the Rose Bowl on Saturday.
And that's a little cool.
There's Perry off the front rim. Yeah, Don's going to pull out the quarter zip on Saturday.
I've lived here my entire life. It has been 85 on Christmas Day before here in Southern California. 85.
Yeah, tough to be Santa.
Yeah.
Santa in shorts.
I've always had an idea, Guy. Tell me what you think. Because I obviously played in a lot of different places when I played in the NBA. And I actually like the seasons. I don't like the fact that it's 85 in December in Southern California. I propose that it snows here in Southern California, but only for December.
Okay.
Like December 1 to 31, it can snow, but every other time it can't.
Got to be gone by the Rose Bowl game.
Yes.
Stefanovic can't quite save that. Our producer, Bart Fox, is headed to Penn State for football this weekend, where it's going to be 39. I said to him, you think there's ever been a Thanksgiving weekend in the league where BTN had a game that was 39 degrees and another one that was 75 degrees? That's got to be the biggest
ever
discrepancy in Big Ten history.
There's no way.
Dominique Ford, and here comes Perry. Well, Don, one thing you said, I know we've seen a few of these games now for UCLA as Matt gets fouled. They've had several blowouts in a row. Does that mean they've played the way in the second half that Mick Cronin wants them to play? Or are they playing the score is something you've brought up?
Yeah, I think in spurts they have. There's been a few instances where you felt like they were playing the score a little bit, which is, hard to deal with because you look up at the scoreboard and you're up 30. Are you really going to play with that much urgency when you're up 30? But the counter to that would be, yeah, you better, because you got all these other guys that want to play. We got a lot of guys on this team that can play minutes. And so you need to finish these games the right way with the opportunity you've been given individually.
Two of three at the line tonight. Well, all you need to know about what Mick Cronin's preparing for is that even as they're winning games by an average of 24, and Trent Perry draws the charge.
I like that, Perry, right there. Earlier in the half, a few minutes ago, tried to take a charge, got a blocking foul, but stuck his nose and his chest in there again, and that time got the offensive foul. Secondary defender, was he in the circle?
Heel above that, heel above the paint.
I think that qualifies as a let's move on, but it was close.
Hey. Well, I don't think you drop a let's move on after you compliment the player.
Yeah, that's kind of why I did.
Yeah. So much for accountability.
Right.
But I was just going to make the point, Don, averaging 24 points, point differential, winning a couple games by 30. There's Morrow with the takeaway.
Good luck trying to throw it over the top of him. 7'3" with the reach to match. UCLA
He's only given up 24 points tonight. Coming up, the Big Show delivers highlights, post-game interviews, and complete analysis next, only on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. Rick Pizzo, John Beilein, who I think is taking the lead over Robbie Hummel tonight for most studio appearances, based on my unofficial count, just watching the Big Show every night.
You're counting?
I'm counting.
Studio appearances?
Yeah, and Trent Meacham, who's very happy about.
Was that in your contract as one of your assignments? Did you keep track of all studio appearances this year?
I watch every night. I'm catching up and learning. And if I don't see Hummel or Beilein, it must be I don't know, maybe it's a rerun. I'm seeing those guys, every one of them is on. Pizzo gets a night off. Revson gets a night off.
Speaking of Revson, you know who else has this tie that I'm wearing tonight?
Has the tie?
Yep. Exact same tie.
I think he wore that last night.
No, I didn't.
Not you. Oh, Revson.
Revson has the exact same tie. You want to know how I know? Because we both wore it on Big Ten Media Day. And he had to go to the cart and get a different tie. Yeah.
You guys are on the same team.
Yeah, but you can't wear the same tie in the same set.
Are you
weird?
I don't know. I think it's kind of.
No, it's weird,
sweet.
dude. No, it's not.
It's kind of cool. Your whole career, you're wearing the same uniform as the guy next to you.
You know what's funny
That's
about
nice
that?
of him. He didn't make you change.
I didn't have one. I only had one tie. I'm on the road, dude.
Trent Perry, there's another illegal screen. That's on Mara, his second.
You know what's funny about that? And then we'll get back to the game. I read this thing a few years ago. A local weather guy in some city, just to see if anyone would notice, wore the exact same outfit for 30 straight nights, and nobody noticed. So whenever you're worried about what tie, have I worn it recently, no one cares or knows.
That is actually great to know.
Yeah.
No one's thinking about you.
No.
That's the lesson.
You're certainly not paying attention to what you're wearing.
Biggest lead of the night for UCLA, and that is the 24th turnover.
Here's the thing, guys, and this was the same on Friday night. Good opportunity here for Mara and Perry especially to get these minutes. And we'll see how much of this last 11 minutes they play. But they got valuable minutes on Friday night and were productive. Let's see if they can do it again here tonight.
Foul on the floor and lost a shoe. Tavy Jackson. Southern Utah's made one field goal in this half, has 11 turnovers.
Non-shooting foul for Perry. But actually Southern Utah is in the bonus. 11 minutes to go. Don't really see that in 40-point games usually.
Dominic Harris off the bench. Can he find his way into the rotation?
It's got to be defensively, guy. Like, he's got to prove that he can be as good as some of these other UCLA guards on the defensive end, because they can use his perimeter shooting.
Harris been a very good shooter in his career at Gonzaga, and then LMU especially. Sebastian Mack can't connect. There's Perry. Undaunted by his early foul trouble, he gets it out, but Dominic Harris unable to take advantage. Southern Utah does get it up ahead to Miller, and he scores. Second field goal of the half.
That's a decision. Perry got that offensive rebound, did a nice job of getting in there. You just got to back that out, settle the game. That's what I'm saying about playing the score a little bit, understanding time and score. You're up 30 whatever. There's no reason to force the issue offensively at this point.
41 now. 6 second half points for Southern Utah. Stefanovic creates another turnover. And here's Mack. Yeah, with one shoe.
Why is everyone's shoes falling off all of a sudden?
I don't know. He's going to step out. 25 turnovers forced for UCLA.
I would make sure my shoes are tied so that I don't have to come out of the game to put my shoe back on.
Stefanovic had a strong first half. And he keeps it going. He's got 17.
What you like about Stefanovic is he lets the game come to him. He doesn't force anything. He's not hunting shots, but if he's open, he knocks it down. Good job by Mara there, getting out there without fouling.
This is Duncan Reed, who played just a couple minutes in the first half. Shot clock is low, and that goes out to UCLA with 4 on the shot clock. So 11 minutes gone by here in this second half, and the Bruins have given up 6 points. Southern Utah had 20. This is, again, Don, this is a team we talked about at the top. This is a team that scores. They know how to win. They've won games. They don't turn it over. They enter at 6-1.
Let's just bottom line it, guy. They were averaging 84 a night coming in. They got 26.
Trent Perry. UCLA, they entered play second in the country at turnover rate. That is 27% of their opponent's possessions result in a turnover. That number is going to go up tonight.
Yeah.
Stefanovic.
But again, we showed it earlier. The level of competition is about to go up starting next week.
But the fact is, you know, this is generally the type of schedule you play to start every season, right? And they are, for the Mick Cronin era, they are blowing teams out by more points than they have in 6 years.
Because the offense is different this year. They're picking up full and forcing the issue. You know, transitioning defense into offense. That's what's different. But look, it doesn't mean their defense isn't going to be this good. It just means they're going to be playing against better players and better teams starting next week.
Bilodeau sitting right now. There's another takeaway with his 4 points for Bilodeau, and Stefanovic gets up again. His second dunk of the year. And the bench is falling over itself.
You can always tell the guys that don't dunk a lot in practice and in games by the reaction of the bench when one of those guys dunks.
Look at these guys. They're celebrating like they just won a championship. Lazar Stefanovic doesn't dunk a lot, but when he dunks, it counts. Lazar Stefanovic dunks, and that's about as good as it gets for the UCLA bench.
Well, again, the guys that don't do it a lot get that reaction from the bench. And what you like about this is this team's having fun, and they've been playing really well of late. After that New Mexico game, they turned a corner defensively and have just become lights out on the defensive end, which has led them to be better on the offensive end and continuing again tonight.
His first dunk came on November 11th. So if if you're putting the date on the dunk, we know it because we were here, Don, and the bench had the same reaction.
Yeah.
I asked Eric Daly today, I said, who's the best? Give me your top 3 dunkers. And he said, Will Kyle 1, me number 2. And then he got a big smile. He said, and Lazar number 3. Stefanovic has 19 tonight. It's not one highlight for him.
He's played really well, and again, you have to give him credit, and we will continue to give him credit for accepting this new different role, this lesser role, and how effective he can be in this role we're seeing tonight.
Well, what an example too, right? Like, he's showing just because you played 7 minutes on Friday doesn't mean you can't lead the team in scoring the next time. And as Mara draws the foul on the battle underneath.
They're having a hard time keeping Mara off the offensive board. You take a look at his season average than tonight. But I could see this as we move forward for UCLA, that different guys stepping up each night because of the scouting report, because they'll probably key on Bilodeau and Daly because they're the 2 leading scorers now. It opens up stuff for other guys, and so you get Stefanovic, who got going early, ends up having a big-time night.
Trent Perry with the basket. Can a team that operates like that you know, they've played in no close games.
Right.
Right. They have not played in a 2-possession game this year. New Mexico was close. It was an 8-point loss. But can a team that kind of scores by committee night to night win in the league
I think
when you need somebody late in the game to score?
There's two ways to look at it. Do you have a guy that, when the game's tight, can get you a bucket at the end? And if you don't, but you got a lot of guys and you move the ball, that makes you that much harder to guard. So then it could be different guys every night.
Mick Cronin was asked about Stefanovic a couple weeks ago. He said he's like Coca-Cola, the same every time. There's a 3 for Xavier Sykes off the bench.
Can we think of other things that are the same every time? Other than Coca-Cola.
Your tie.
Yeah.
Here's Will Kyle powering his way.
That freaked me out so much when Revson had the same tie. I haven't worn this tie since. Media day was in like October.
I half expect Revson to appear from somewhere wearing the same tie right now and pop out from behind the table. Stay connected to Men's Hoops on social media. Follow at B1G MBBall on X, and then follow at B1G MBB on YouTube and Instagram to get immediate access to the best highlights, features, and the teams you love.
I wondered about Perry and Morris specifically with the score being what it is. They've played the last 5 minutes straight. So let's see if Mick Cronin gives them the opportunity to finish this game this last 6:15.
Morris up near 17 minutes now for this game. Same with Perry off the bench. Perry sat a lot in that first half. He had a couple of fouls. Yeah, I'd put him on the list, Don. It's early. He's a freshman. But we've seen these guys. There's Mara's third illegal screen tonight. We've seen these guys several times in person. And I don't think you would know if Trent Perry's got 20 points or 3 points.
Yeah, he's got a good demeanor to him. And you want that from a lead guard. Doesn't get too emotional, doesn't get too sped up, just kind of plays at his own speed. Then it just becomes decision making, and I think that's the next step for Perry, is really understanding the position, what's expected of it, but decision making, when to shoot, when to get guys involved. But Trent Perry's off to a good start in his career here at UCLA, no doubt. I think Mick is going to use this opportunity of seeing him instruct Trent Perry to work on their half-court offense.
There's Mara with his 7th rebound tonight, and Perry can't get it to go. Rebound number 8, Mara.
Put it down. That he's so big and long. He just should have just turned, went right shoulder, left-hand jump hook. Didn't need the dribble.
Mara's got 6 points, 8 boards in this game. Harris went for the steal. It creates an open 3 for Duncan Reed, and he swishes it.
Well, there's going to be some late buckets here for Southern Utah that might make the score not look quite as bad as it was. But UCLA's defense has been terrific all night.
It was 5th. That basket from Perry breaks an 8-0 Southern Utah run. And the Thunderbirds are going into their bench. And we've got a timeout on the floor. Mara's working hard tonight. It's Bruin defense in overdrive as they're closing in on 80 points. A dominant performance tonight from UCLA. They held Southern Utah to 20 first half points. They've only allowed 14 so far here in the second half. So their defense against Wisconsin's, right now it's a top 15 offense. John Tonje in his 3rd stop, and he's the back-to-back Big Ten Player of the Week. We were talking about him last week after the great game against Arizona, and here he is again with another award.
Sometimes you find the right situation and the right system that fits what you do. One thing that wasn't shown on that graphic, Wisconsin still continues to shoot free throws at an unbelievable rate. Just under 87% as a team on the season.
Oh, there's another 3 from Xavier Sykes. They're #1 in the country
Oh,
free
you
throw
think?
percentage.
You think 87 as a team?
But they do other things. They don't turn it over.
Nope.
They don't lose. They're 7-0. As Daly gets blocked. But there, you know, there's a lot of guys. You go through the. You can't just count on one hand. There's so many guys. Sky Clark here, right? Players on their third team. Veteran guys who are playing some of their best basketball. And Tanjay leading the way with a 7-0 Badgers squad. UCLA dominating now. Really, college football coming up this weekend. And then it's only just beginning. The conference championships, the playoff. The Big Ten in good position.
I think the right move into a 12-team playoff in college football.
Yeah. How do you feel about 14?
Hadn't really pondered it, but 12 seems right to me, but what do I know?
How about a Sweet 16? Eventually. Lazar Stefanovic. You know, Don, I just want to make the point too earlier. Like, you look at the score, and this has been consistent, and it tells you everything about what the goal for UCLA, why they play these games. To work for 40 minutes, not for 30.
Look,
the guys that get minutes, like Eric Daly's a starter. He just hit a basket. He's in this game.
But you schedule to your roster. You're a veteran team with a lot of guys coming back. Maybe you schedule your non-con a little bit harder. You got a bunch of new guys coming in. Maybe you don't schedule as difficult. But I do think that UCLA, look, there's games in the past here at UCLA, whether it's Mick Cronin or whoever's the coach here, where they've had tight games in the non-con against teams they should beat. And it says something that they're blowing all these teams out every night. And to me, it says just how good defensively they are and will be, no matter who they play this year. I think that wake-up call against New Mexico was good for them. You never want to lose to get a wake-up call, but that's what happened. And ever since, they have been dominant on the defensive side.
Up top to Kyle. It's not a UCLA night until Will Kyle gets a dunk.
And Perry, valuable minutes at that point guard position here down the home stretch.
3 assists for Perry. Just to repeat, this is with Kobe Johnson and Tyler Bilodeau combining for 8 points tonight. Kobe did other things, right? He got 6 boards, 4 assists.
Pass.
Daly.
Great cut by Daly. Good recognition by Kyle.
Well, this is what we're talking about as Daly checks out and Jack Seidler comes into the game for UCLA. Here's their average margin through 6 games. So generally you're looking at the same type of opponent, right, give or take. And it's the biggest that it's been. Now, you're not expecting that to continue, but and he has had different teams.
Right, but I've said it a couple times tonight. It just shows me that they're being different offensively and that their defense is generating more offense and they're more willing to be up-tempo and push it down the court instead of making it a low possession, low turnover game and beat people that way. They got a lot of depth. They're a deep team. And I like it. I like this. If the defense can stay the way it is, once you get into conference play, it makes it that much easier to score when you're being scouted by conference teams that you're playing.
There's Kyle the rebound. You saw the way the Bruins reacted when Lazar Stefanovic dunked earlier. As Kyle scores inside. Jack Seidler, who's not scored in his career, gets a basket, making his 3rd appearance.
Do they run some action for him?
Do they?
Probably not.
Seidler, the redshirt sophomore from Marlboro, New Jersey. There's a look for Seidler. Clean look at a three. And it's a little too amped up, perhaps. The bench was all up on its feet. And we're under a minute. Sykes can't hit. And that is out of bounds to Southern Utah. If you want Seidler to get a shot up, the thing you can't do is get the ball back with the shot clock off. Right? And they should.
Mick may tell him not to shoot anyway.
Here's Seidler spinning inside for the first basket of his career.
Good for him. That was a nice play, actually.
What a great highlight. And now the student section chanting his name.
Got to get it across half. I don't know if they realize that.
Don, UCLA had 20 players on the floor after that basket.
Fun heading into the Thanksgiving holiday, and happy Thanksgiving everyone out there, by the way. To you, Guy Haberman, and your family.
And to you, Don, and everybody watching and enjoying. And UCLA in a blowout win. That might tell you everything you need to know about this group.
Yeah, had a lot of fun.